think it's taping. Go ahead, John. So
Yeah.
you were talking about Dad
Yeah,
and how he was
the fact
important
that
to
the
you.
Clintons and the Castles and the Rutts always tended to be kind of stoic people. We didn't show our feelings very much. I was talking about that when with Mom one time when she left her home, had sold her house and moved into Wesley Acres, and I would come by after church and have lunch with her in the main dining room area there, and she said, I don't know if it's worth getting to know my friends. As soon as I get to know them, they die on me. And I said, Mom, you can't be human without having friends, even if they die. I know it hurts, but you still have to go ahead and be friends with people. And she was too.
Oh, very much so. You could always tell that's why she enjoyed Wesley Acres so much, because she was so social and made lots of connections.
She was social, and she did make lots of connections. Yeah, and that I think that was just the way Mom was. She was very social. I don't think she got much of a chance when she was younger to be very much, because she was the baby in her family. And she said, I think she and you were talking one time about being the baby of the family, having to go to bed early and hearing everybody in the front room laughing and telling jokes and stuff like that. And you're lying in bed and you have to go to bed and you can't do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think for that reason, Mom always related real well to you. And then, especially as she got older, she related strongly to Sue as the only child that lived. One time I was over after Mass on Sunday one time, and she said to me, this spring, Mary Beth would have graduated from high school. And I was just thunderstruck, because I didn't even think about that. I asked Dave what he remembered one time about the day Dad died, and he said, I remember them telling me that, and the rest of the evening is just a blank. I don't remember anything. And Mary Beth was Dad's last child, Mom and Dad's last child. She was born in Newton, and then we moved to Grand Junction, and she wasn't even 2 years old. And Mom had given her lunch and set her down for her after lunch nap. And an hour came back, and she rolled over and smothered herself. It turned out that she had tracheal bronchitis, which meant severe form of bronchitis, but she wasn't even 2 years old, and she didn't have a full autoimmune system, and she wasn't able to fight it off. The only reason I remember that is because President Johnson at that time had tracheal bronchitis too, but he was an adult and got real good care, and he was able to recover. So that's how I always remembered about Mary Beth.
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned about the day Dad died. I mean, I know, I didn't know that thing about him telling Sue either until Mom passed away, and Sue told me, and that's the first I'd heard of that too, how he'd said that, don't worry about it, everything's okay. Yeah. See, now, the night I remember about that is that, I remember, I think we'd had supper at the table, and yeah, you and Dave went off, and I didn't really remember you went to jazz band.
Jazz band, yeah.
And I remember Dad sitting there in that chair in the front room, and I remember giving him a back rub.
Really?
Yeah, because I could just tell he was really tense, and I just remember rubbing his neck and stuff like that, and then later I got ready for bed, and I was upstairs because I shared the room with Dave, of course.
Yes, right.
And I was in my bedroom, and I don't know if Sue was in her bedroom. And I know because Dad and Mom were in their room, which is just down the hallway from us.
Yes.
And I can still remember Mom telling Dad to just, Charles Raymond, relax, or something like that. And I knew Dad was making these really weird sounds I'd never heard before. And so I think that's when they'd called Dr. Lingy, to try and to help him or whatever. Yeah. But and I don't know if Sue came into my room just to kind of stay with me or whatever. And somehow, something happened, of course, and then I remember they bringing us all downstairs, and then they brought Dad down on the stretcher, and Dr. Carl was there.
Dr. Carl was there. See, I didn't even know that.
I think I remember he was there, and he said a little prayer with us. And then, of course, they took Dad out, But I can remember us all in that main living room there by the fireplace,
Yes.
With the top light on. It was really bright, and we were all kind of there. And I can remember that part of that night. And I remember Dr. Lee was going to give Mom something to calm her nerves, because they knew that she probably wouldn't be able to sleep that night very well.
Really?
So I think they gave her like a sedative or something, or for her to take.
Oh, really, for Mom?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I can remember that.
By the time I got there, they removed Dad's body already.
Oh, they had.
I remember my grandma Lois Rutt going, "He can't be dead. He can't be dead." I was counting on him to be there when I got old.
Yeah.
And to my mind, of only 18, she was in her mid-70s.
Yeah.
I thought she was already old, but in her own mind, she was still thinking of herself when she was a teenager girl.
Yeah.
Out of Clorinda.
Right.
Not at Clorinda, Yorktown.
The dad would still be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of why Grandma Rutt had moved to Fayette, so that Dad could kind of take care of her.
Yes, that's right. And she wanted to be closer to Dad, and she could see all the lights, and Mom came.
Yeah.
And Dr. Lengy said to Grandma, "Mrs. Rutt, I can see you're in a lot of distress. Would you like a shot to calm down?" She said, "No, don't do that. Don't do that." When my own husband died, the town doctor came up to my side and gave me a sedative, and I couldn't feel anything, not even during his funeral.
Oh dear.
And I always wondered why Grandma, when she come from her annual summer vacation, would go. She'd come down, and she'd have that sigh of hers.
Yeah.
Today, 35 years ago, cousin XYZ died. And I never understood that as a kid, because I was only 19, and I thought it was a big deal being 19. I couldn't imagine what being 75 was.
Yeah.
But that opened a window to me when I thought back about her saying that to Dr. Lengy. "No, I'll be quiet. Don't give me a shot." She couldn't mourn her husband the day he died, because that city doctor, that without permission, had given her a shot, and she couldn't feel anything, emotionally or physically. And she spent the night in the fold-out couch there with us too.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, she did. And it was real tough for Mom. I always wondered why Mom never mourned Dad in public. One time when Grandma Rutt was there, she was talking about various things, and she always talked about things, and she left, and it was just us family and Mom, or after Grandma Rutt had gone home, she said, "You know the reason why your Grandma Rutt never had any problems?" He said, "No, why, Mom?" Because the least little thing that bothered her, she talked about it. And I asked Mom one time later on, "Why didn't you mourn in public?" And she said, "I mourned in private." That was just the way Mom was. And it wasn't meant as a criticism. I was trying to understand her attitude towards that.
Yeah.
If I had gotten married and my partner had died, I would have been bawling my eyes out. It took me a long time to learn that it's okay to let your emotions out. I'm still learning that every day. And it's funny, because I didn't find that out until Mom told me that. I asked Sue about that though when she came one time, and she said, "Yes, that Dad told me that." And I said, "Well, why didn't anybody tell me this now? Why did they wait all these years later?" And Mom didn't have anything to say. I think that was just the way Mom was.
Yeah. Okay.
And us too. When Sue left the family and moved from Central Iowa out to Colorado, where she eventually found her husband Bob and had her 2 children, whenever she'd call back, she'd always end by saying, "I love you." And you and I especially used to go, "Yes, we love you, Sue," but we were being sarcastic. Whenever I get a chance to talk to Sue now, I'm not sarcastic. I always make a point of saying, "I love you," because I really do. Family is dearer to me than even books or gold. And anybody who knows me knows how dear I hold books.
Yes, we do. Yeah. No, when I was younger, she would say, "I love you," and my line back to her would say, "You'll get over it."
Pardon me?
I would tell her, "You'll get over it."
Oh, you'll get over it.
But of course, yes, now I don't say that anymore.
No,
So.
not now.
Yeah. Okay. So before I run out of some room here, because I've got other things to ask you, but you said you wanted to talk about you. So what do you want to talk about? Or is that what you wanted to get out there?
Well, it's kind of hard talking about who I am. Anybody in the family knows that I'm gay.
Okay.
And it's not a big deal, because when I was working with one of my second therapists, he said, "John," his name was Nick, he said, "I have an assignment for you. said, I want you to call up your brothers and sisters and tell them that you're gay and see what they say.
Okay.
And I did that, and David was in town visiting, and he said, that still doesn't mean you can't be a good man. I got Sue on a bad morning, and she said, I can't deal with this. I got to get Sue, I got to get Patrick and Danielle off the school.
Sure.
And I called up my youngest brother, Tom, and I said, Tom, I'm gay. And he said, I still love you.
Yeah.
And I think that was more my perception. When you grew up in the 50s, when I first told Mom and Dad that I was homosexual, Dad asked, have you had sex with another man? I said, no, I haven't. He said, oh, you're just going through a phase. And after they went home, I was thinking to myself, well, I told them. They didn't believe me, but I told them. And I've always I've been kind of that way. And that
Okay.
I'm trying to learn that it's not a big deal, because a lot of my other friends were gay, and we used to say to each other, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we wouldn't know what we were going to be when we wanted to grow up. At least I knew enough not to get married. I could have easily gotten married. There were a couple of times where it became very close. And I didn't get married because in my heart and in my mind and in my bloodstream, I knew I was gay. Back then, that word didn't even exist. I used the word homosexual. I didn't find that out until later. Now it's quite different, and people are, back in the 50s, to say that you're gay was a horrible thing to say, because it meant you wouldn't have any children.
Right.
To continue on the next generation. I said that to Mom one time after we moved from Fayette to Des Moines. I said, it's over supper. I said, I hope you're not planning on me giving you any grandchildren, because it's not going to happen. And she said, I wasn't expecting any children.
There you go.
See, I think Mom knew anyway. It was okay for the social worker across the backyard to be gay. It was okay for the church organist in her church to be gay. But it was not okay for her firstborn son to be gay.
Sure.
But even though she did know that I was,
Sure.
and she didn't realize that in real terms until I'd moved out of the house. And before I moved out, I'd left a bunch of books on gay liberation next to my bed. And we were having lunch, and she said, I saw those books. And she said, I didn't say anything, and I think that's probably why I left them there, so she'd see them, and she'd have to say something. And she didn't. She said, I could lose my job over that. And I felt like saying, Mom, it's me. You can't lose your job just because your oldest is gay. But on another subject, like Mom, I was talking with her one time about me, how I felt about things. And she said, Harriet Bailey wants to be able to cross her legs. Sue wants a marriage that works. She ran down a list of her lady friends at church, and they all wanted something else that they didn't have. And she said, you just, as you get older, you realize some things aren't worth fighting over. And especially as I get older, I've realized that you can't win all battles. You have to be careful about choosing which battles you want to choose.
That's good advice. Yeah.
Enough of that for a while.
Good.
But I could talk more about being a freshman at the University of Iowa. I thought I was just homesick and stopped going to class, but it was actually, looking back now, I know it was depression.
Okay.
And that ran in the family. And it ran on both sides. My Mom's youngest only brother, our Uncle DeWitt, was mentally ill. His mother, our grandmother Clinton, couldn't admit it. Grandpa Clinton knew something was wrong, but he couldn't get anywhere because his wife wouldn't accept the fact that her only son was that way.
Sure.
Uncle Rel, who was one of the